We are talking with L.M. Browning, who's from Connecticut, a poet and an author and a baker and everything else. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for the invite. This is wonderful.
I have all these books that you've sent me, and I've been reading through them. The latest one, Fleeting Moments of Fierce Clarity, which is a really big title.
Yeah.
And you've got another book coming out as well. Let's talk about, for folks who are watching who want to be an author, a writer, a poet, where did this start?
It started cathartically. I had to write at age 15.
And what happened?
I just started writing small poems, jotting down thoughts in the middle of the night, and I didn't really think of it as a career at the time. It was just something I loved to do. And it wasn't until I was 18 that I actually started looking at it as a career, but I sent out early manuscripts and got nothing but rejections, like everybody.
Right, did you send out stories or did you send out poetry?
Poetry in the beginning, which is a very hard, genre to break into in the first place because it's so small, so you really have to be good. And got nothing but rejections back and decided, okay, this is just going to be a hobby. It's something that I enjoy, but I'm never going to make money off of.
Why poetry? Because to me, poetry is scary. You know, how now, brown cow? I mean,
I don't rhyme.
how does one dig in and start writing poetry?
To me, it just happens organically. It's just you have a thought or a feeling or something will happen, and I'll want to convey it, but I have trouble with novels. They take forever, and I have trouble disciplining myself to sit down and write every day. And with a poem, I can just sit down in an hour or two and write out the thought, get the emotion out, and have it, and then move on to the next thought. So to me, poetry is easier and comes more naturally than prose.
You talk about, in all of your materials, growing up in poverty with your mom.
Yeah.
And it was you and your mom against the world. And your mom was also not well.
No, when I was in the summer of my senior year in high school, she had a crippling MS attack to her cerebellum. So one minute she was fine and functioning, and the next minute she couldn't see, she couldn't function on her own, she couldn't walk, nothing. So I grew up overnight.
What happened to make you grow up and decide, okay, I'm her caretaker, I'm this, but I also want to write, I also want my education. You were in poverty. How did you do all of this?
Well, actually, it was taking care of her that brought about my being a writer. Before she got sick, I was intending to go pre-med. And I wanted to do emergency medicine and study languages with the hope of, joining something like the WHO. And then she got sick, and it's really not how do you think about growing up overnight, it's you have to. She cannot live on her own, she cannot function on her own, you have to grow up and do it.
So she was your mom, but you were also friends, sisters, all of that.
Well, going through something like that inevitably evolves the bond. I mean, there were times when I was the mother and she was the daughter because I was taking care of her, and then you get close like sisters and friends, and it brings it to a place you can't even convey, really, and that's a lot coming from a writer.
So as 18, you're taking care of your mom, money's a big problem, it's a nightmare. Are you writing? Is that taking you to a place that is helping you be who you've been validated? You're winning awards, you've got great books, you're inspiring others. You even started your own Homebound Publications where you publish your own books. So where did this come from?
Well, while I was taking care of her, I read. I couldn't work because I had to take care of her full time. So her and I were living on her Social Security disability because she couldn't work anymore. So we were on a fixed income. I took care of her during the day, and then at night I would read and write. And I gathered volumes and volumes of poetry, and finally, in my late 20s, took a deep breath and really kind of dug down and found the good stuff and put together the collections and sent them out.
When did you first get validated? And what was the poem? Can you recite it? Do you remember what?
It wasn't a poem, actually. It was a book. It was Ruminations at Twilight.
Okay, that's this one right here by Ellen Browning.
I wrote that within a 2-week intense period.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. It came out, it just came out. It was almost like it was gestating like for years and then finally came out.
Give me some lines. Can you remember?
Oh, I honestly, I can't remember.
I'm always curious.
No, I know.
A poet
yeah.
can, just to recite back.
I can't.
What did this book do for you?
That was the first book where I thought, okay, I think this is good enough to take to the public, to take to a publisher. That was the first book where I thought I was good enough to be a writer instead of just a hobbyist. And I started sending it out, and I got back a lot of good feedback from publishers and editors. They're like, we like this, we like your voice, but we don't know how to market you. So they had to turn me down. So that led me to create Homebound Publications.
Tell me about the creation of Homebound Publications. And you said to me you love Connecticut, you love New England, and you're now publishing the people you want to publish. So how does one just start that?
It actually started when I was 18 and I wrote my first poetry collection, which I've never published, but
you should someday.
Yeah, I know. I scrolled at the bottom of the manuscript, Homebound Publications. So if I ever opened my own, publishing house, that's what I'd call it. So it started as a scribble at the bottom of a journal, and now it's established, and we're publishing authors, and it's surreal sometimes.
I asked you before we started taping, who should come to you, and I'll just put this little thing, Homebound Publications. Who do you want to hear from? Who do you want to publish?
Well, we publish what I like to call contemplative literature, and a lot of people say, well, that's a very broad term. All literature is contemplative. What makes you different? And I always say we want to publish the books that are going to be on your nightstand for a couple of years, not a novel that you're going to pick up in a supermarket. We want to publish something that's going to make you think, that you're going to carry around with you maybe for a summer and make you reflect.
So who's banging on your door to get published by you?
We've had established writers, to like Gunilla Norris and Pearl Besserman, who have just published countless spiritual novels and meditation collections to newcomers who are just passionate right out of the gate and looking for someone who believes in them. So it's really a broad range, and a lot of publishers now, because the publishing industry is in such chaos, don't want to take chances on new writers. But I always, my staff and I always say we'd rather take someone who's passionate and right out of the gate and has all that zeal and is ready to go out.
You're old-fashioned. Maybe you are reinventing the publishing business because it's really hard. But you're doing it, as you said, with passion. That was very interesting that you want to publish books that somebody has on their nightstand for 2 years. We're such a throwaway society, and we're moving so fast. Give me the next one, give me the next one.
Yep.
That is a lovely thought, that you would go back to that book and read Passengers. When we got going, you said for Homebound, to revive contemplative storytelling. What does that mean?
Like you said, we've become a society of what I like to call like the quick the quick novels. It's just kind of almost like brain candy. You pick it up, you read it for 2 days, you toss it back to the library or to a friend, and it doesn't stay with you. Mm-hmm. You don't retain something. It doesn't make you think. It's just entertainment. We like the literature that makes you think.
How did you get your education? You're taking care of your mom. You don't have money. How did you get to your education, and where did you get it?
Well, when I couldn't go to college after high school, I was devastated. I really wanted to continue my education, and I didn't have the money, didn't have the time, so I started going to the library. 3 times a week I'd go. I knew all the librarians by name, at the Westerly Library and the Mystic Noank Library, and I would just check out books on literature and art and baking and cooking and, everything, from writing to art design to, and it was 8 years of independent study that basically gave me my education.
That you did yourself?
Yeah.
Then what happened?
Then I finally, Mom got better, which she is a testament to what you can do if you believe that you can get better, and and I was finally stable enough with money to apply to the University of London external program, which is the original distance learning program. They opened in mid-1800s, And I started studying philosophy through them, and I'd study on my own throughout the year and then sit my exams at Yale, which was extraordinary.
How were you able to push yourself? How did you do that, the self-motivation?
I waited so long to have it. So then when to have my education, or to be published, or to be able to make Homebound Publications and, you know, take the direction that I'd just been dreaming about for so long, that as soon as I had the opportunity, I wasn't going to waste it.
You're living your life with urgency.
Yeah.
You did your own website.
I did, yeah.
Is there anything you don't do, Leslie?
We don't print the books.
Okay, well that's good enough. And why L.M. Browning and not Leslie?
I'm a private person. I wanted to have some kind of anonymity.
Well, there you go.
It didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work at all. So, but and then it's difficult for women in the industry still, even now. You know, you see a woman's name on the cover of the book, and sometimes men won't pick it up. As sexist as that sound, and I know it's horrible, but a lot of bigger publishers do gear women to take their initials instead. It's like J.K. Rowling is the perfect example. They wanted her to take J.K. because they thought boys wouldn't buy the Harry Potter books if it had Joanne Rowling on the cover.
So we have not come that far, have we?
We've come far, but there's still that stigma.
That's an amazing story. So Homebound Publications and L.M. Browning, when somebody picks up a book, a poetry, or a story that you've written, how do we categorize you, or can we?
I call it spiritual poetry, but there are some people that wouldn't say that it is. I mean, I couldn't find a place of belonging in mainstream publishing, so I created a place of belonging. That's my philosophy. And, you know, other authors gravitated towards that idea. You know, other authors who had, you know, solid works, well-written works, but didn't fit into that neat little box of marketability. So they couldn't find a publisher. They come to us and, you know, it just works.
They find a home.
Exactly. Homebound.
So my head is off to you for doing that, because you didn't find a place where you fit, so you did it yourself, which so many people are trying to do these days. The old models are broken, you're building new ones. In 10 years, what is L.M. Browning doing, and what is Homebound Publications? What's your hope?
Well, a lot of our staff is based in Boston, so everybody wants to see the press move to Boston in 10 years. I love Connecticut. I will never move the press out of Connecticut. I mean, I grew up here. I know the area, and I just love it. And I want it to be based in Mystic or Stonington, where I live now. And you know, a storefront maybe, a place where we can have readings and sell our books, and, you know, just, I mean, right now, this is the first year that we've really taken it full force, and we're doing 15 books, and 10 are already out, and 3 have already won awards. So I think we're going in the right track.
And if somebody hears this interview and says, I want to get to know her, and I want to help her in her endeavors to get Homebound Publications to stay in the state of Connecticut and to branch out, how do they do that?
Well, the best way
what do you need help doing?
The best way to support an indie press is obviously to buy the books, and, you know, try to buy the book through an independent bookseller, or, you know, through our website, you know, and support the local artists that way. You know, try to bypass the chain stores who just take so much off the top. And on the website, we do have a section for what we call Friends of Homebound, where you can make a donation if you'd like to towards the press. 100% of it goes towards the press. But really the best way is just buy one of the books, read it. If you like it, talk about it. You know, write a review on barnesandnoble.com, or, you know, go to your local bookseller and say, you know, try to get them for a reading, and, you know, the best way is to get involved.
All right. And if somebody has a storefront in Mystic or Stonington, you'd like to hear from them. If it's a good price,
our
you can get it
local bookstore,
going.
Bank Square Books, has just been amazing, and Essex
It's
Books
a great
and
place.
RJ Julia. I mean, they've all
Of
just been
course.
so embracing.
Well, Ellen Browning, nothing but luck and good things to come for you, and thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was just wonderful.
You're welcome.
Made a trivial pursuits when one this in. who's this girl? I spent all night kissing, and if Walter's right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm so wishing I could find the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Things to keep locked in the grocery store, but mine, just to save time, I'll skip right ahead to the last ride. The harder we look, the less we can see. Don't you know, you know, you know that you need me.